The next ism is humanism, which basically says you can be good without God. That's true. But I want you to understand is that when humanists say you can be good without God, they're assuming that good is objective. So we do agree, and even the Quran agrees, and the Prophet ﷺ in various hadith, when he praised non-believers because of their justice or because of the compassion or because of the charity, these things were objective, and we knew not only were they objective good, but we could understand and appreciate that non-Muslims can have good behavior. We really appreciate this. We don't have a monopoly on good behavior. But humanists say you don't need God to be good, which is true in a sense of, do you need God to tell you what good is? Some good. No, because some of them are based on our nature, which the Quran and the Sunnah agree with. But they're assuming that good is objective. For example, killing a 5-year-old, an innocent 5-year-old, is objectively morally wrong. They would agree that. They're not saying it's subject to their own opinions, to their own minds, or to their own feelings. They would even say, even if the whole world were to come together and say it's okay to kill a 5-year-old, they would still say no, it's still objectively wrong. That position, brothers and sisters, requires God's existence. So humanism fails because they want to deny God and say you can live a good life without God, which may be true. But if you believe and you have that conviction, that sense of ought, that we know something ought to be, that itself requires God. So it's a self-defeating worldview. You can be good without God. Well, maybe, but you can't have good without God. And that's the point. And that's why Professor of Theology and Ethics Ian Markham, he writes, embedded in the word ought, like something ought to be, a moral sense, is the sense of a moral fact transcending our life and world. The underlying character of moral language implies something universal and external. So what we're trying to say here is, brothers and sisters, that you can only have objective good if God exists. So you may be good without believing in God, like you may have some good behavior, and you may, for example, find what good is without God, but you can never have good without God. You can never have good in an objective sense. And the humanist and humanism assumes that good is objective. If it's objective, then it means God must exist. Now why? Because God is the only idea, the only concept that transcends our subjectivity. Because we all differ. Because we all have our own sense of personal kind of opinions, whether it's based on feeling or based on our own subjective internal brain experience. And this is why Professor Ian Markham, he says, God explains the mysterious ought pressing down our lives. And God explains the universal nature of the moral claim as God is outside of the world. And God the Creator can both be external and make universal commands. So in a way, God is the only kind of objective reference point. He transcends human ikhtilaf, human differences. So from this perspective, brothers and sisters, God is the only basis, the only foundation to ensure that morals are objective. And if you don't have God, what's left? Well, some people claim you have biology and you have social consensus or social pressure. And they say, therefore, you can have objective morals. No, you can't. Because let's take biology first as an example. Look what Charles Darwin said in the 19th century. He gave a very interesting example. And he said, if men, human beings, were reared under precisely the same conditions as the hive bees, there can hardly be a doubt that our unmarried females would, like the worker bees, think it a sacred duty to kill their brothers, and mothers would strive to kill their fertile daughters, and no one would think of interfering. That's if we were reared just like the hive bees. Now you could even think, well, if we were reared according to the same biological conditions as the nurse shark, well, therefore we would think it's okay to rape women, because the nurse shark wrestles and basically shoves its mate, which is tantamount to rape. It is no wonder Bentham, he basically said that human rights from a Darwinian perspective is nonsense on stilts. It's just elevated nonsense. Because it's true. Because biology renders morals meaningless. It's just a reaction. It's just a response to certain conditions. And they don't have any ultimate objective meaning. Like morals have evolved like our unwanted hair, nose hair, or our teeth. And that's why philosopher of science Michael Rules, he explains this well. And he says, morality is a biological adaptation no less than our hands, feet and teeth. Considered as a rationally justifiable set of claims about an objective something, ethics or morals is illusory. I appreciate that when somebody says love thy neighbor as thyself, they think they're referring above and beyond themselves. Nevertheless, such reference is truly without foundation. Morality is just an aid to survival and reproduction. Now, some people claim, what about natural selection? Natural selection formulates the basis for objective morals. No, it doesn't. All natural selection does, as the moral philosopher Philip Kitcher says, is that it allows you the capacity to formulate ethical rules. It doesn't give you a foundation for objective ethical rules. So we know biology can't be a basis for objective morals. What about human consensus? That we come together as human beings and we agree on something that makes it objective. No, that's not true. Because human society is based on what? One subjective individual plus another subjective individual plus another subjective individual plus another subjective individual. So you have all of these subjective individuals. So subjective individuals plus more subjective individuals, you're going to have just the more subjective individuals. It cannot form an objective basis. So social pressure or people coming together to form conclusions about things, especially moral things or moral realities, can never be objective because it's based on human subjectivity. And if we were even to claim that society can provide a foundation for objective morals, then there'll be some problems, because we will have to say that what happened in Nazi Germany in the 1940s was a good thing, because they came together as a German society to say it's morally okay to kill 6 million Jews. But we know that's wrong. But to claim that your source and foundation for objective morals is society would mean you can't disagree with what happened in Nazi Germany. So from this perspective, brothers and sisters, we see that God is the only foundation for objective morals. As He created the whole universe, He knows us better than we know ourselves. His commands come from His good nature. And therefore what He commands is good because He is good. And He defines what good is, because that's His nature by definition, as Allah is Al-Qudus, the holy, the perfect.